Hello everyone, welcome to another Classic Movie Monday, and I'm sorry that these videos are being delayed, but I've been having some technical issues with the audio um, and also having to play catch up, so I'm going to be trying to do all of them, or I'm going to be doing all of them today. 2 more to go, and this one in particular I wanted to discuss is The Departed. Now, some people might say that this film's a little bit overpraised for what it is, and that it's just ultimately a Martin Scorsese film that's somewhat similar to maybe his other mobster films. And although I will admit that there are some genuine similarities between The Departed and a lot of other gangster films, and in particular ones that Martin Scorsese did, this one I think is also rather interesting and entertaining, and I think genuinely enjoyable to watch, even though it might have its moments where it does feel maybe a little bit leaning on more towards the ideas and concepts of other films that have come out over the years. But basically, in case you have not seen this film stars Leonardo DiCaprio, who plays Billy. I want to make sure I get his last name right. Costigan. And basically, he goes undercover as a Irish mobster to gain access to the gang's leader, Frank Costello, who's played by Jack Nicholson. And in doing so, you kind of really do see the turmoil that Leonardo DiCaprio's character goes through. You really do feel like he is constantly on edge, and he is afraid of getting caught. He's afraid of being exposed. He's afraid of getting killed. He has this sense of paranoia, and he is very out there and loud, and is trying to really cultivate this character of being a mobster while trying to ultimately bring justice by being a cop. So he is kind of trying to embrace the character of himself being somebody that he's not, and also trying to balance out who he genuinely really is. So obviously it's bringing up a lot of similar things that we've seen in a lot of Martin Scorsese films of identity. But the thing is in this film it's done actually rather differently than in something like The Godfather or in what is that other film? Goodfellas. Excuse me. Had a brain fart there. But and again, it's all through this idea that he has to play off these two various different parts of himself. And it also, I think, addresses the fact that he does have sort of a history with the Irish mob, and the fact that he has to create this fake identity, plays into a lot of concepts that other films have brought up, but not in this way, because again, it's taking the perceived idea of identity and doing it in a way that's different, because the whole purpose of identity within this film is trying to play the part so that ultimately a greater good can be achieved. Whereas in films like Goodfellas, for example, the main character, his whole shtick in regards to identity, his whole issue with that is that he doesn't want to be a nobody. He wants to be a somebody. He wants to be something great, grand, have a spectacle about him. he wants to achieve some kind of greatness, and he thinks that greatness is by being a gangster for some reason. Probably because of the money, largely. But again, that's something that's completely different, and that's a whole different topic in regards to identity. The Departed is about dealing with the inner turmoil of having to play somebody that is supposed to be a horrible, um, uh, supposed to be playing a bad guy, um, but at the same time, genuinely having to, deal with um, the whole uh, the whole underbelly of of what Leo's character really is, which is a cop undercover who's trying to um, do some greater good. At the same time, it's really messing with his mind, and he kind of goes a little bit kook as the film goes on. And then you see also other concepts of identity. Matt Damon's character in particular isn't really who he claims to be and whatnot. And, it's so again, it's trying to create a completely different plot with similar scenarios of the whole kind of, I guess you could say, gangster culture. But at the same time, it addresses these different ideas about how we perceive identity, um, and what it really means to those who maybe have to hide or are fairly sneaky in how they uh, sort of lie to people and manipulate people. And I think this is something that's actually rather interesting and unique in this particular film, because in a lot of other gangster films, a lot of it is about being kind of stylish and lavish. In particular, The Godfather and Goodfellas, they do try to create the whole dark and kind of, but it's at the same time glamorous persona of being a gangster. But underneath that, you, at least within this film, and what I think is also interesting about this film is you see it through the perspectives of the police officers as well as through the perspective of the Irish gang members. So you do get a completely different way of approaching the whole idea instead of just doing it completely through the gangster's lens, and talking about their problems and their um, developments as characters. So that's what I think has actually made this film sort of stand out, and I think why a lot of people really got invested and interested in the film, and why critics seem to like it a lot, and they still give it genuine praise over the years. Um, and uh, and I like the fact too that there's a lot of kind of shades of gray within a lot of the characters, and you end up seeing how ultimately they end up getting exposed as being a certain, it teeters on this shades of gray, and then you see really who ultimately they are, if they are genuinely good or if they are genuinely um, sort of not, and just kind of creating this deceptive and deceiving persona in order to maybe achieve some selfish ends. And again, it's all done in, I think, very interesting and uh, well acted and well executed way. And again, obviously, there's going to be people who disagree with me on this, but I think it is a rather interesting take as far as, and the fact that it kind of tries to take, I believe it is trying to take an actual, because I think Frank Costello was an actual gangster, if I'm not mistaken. I remember doing some research a while back, and I think this film was trying to base it off of that particular person. Um, or at least have this particular person within the film. But it's just, I just think overall, when you look at a lot of these films, um, a lot of the ways in which the good ones are executed is through the way in which they try to establish the plot and characters. And I think in particular, this film did an overall good job of doing that. Uh, and I think they do it in actually a unique way, like I've explained through the themes of identity and how they showcase it is completely different from something like Goodfellas, um, and it's definitely not a family-centered movie. I mean, it's not like The Godfather where there's a lot of emotional strings attached to things. Um, but yeah, that's really ultimately all I think I can say about this film without really giving too much away. But I think it's definitely worthy of a recommendation if you're interested, and I think it stands to be as one of the really good and well executed Martin Scorsese films. And again, some people might disagree with me on this, but I personally feel that overall it's an enjoyable film and one that I can kind of go back and watch. Um, but yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say for this video. However, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you.